Hello, welcome back to video number 40. Today we'll be finishing up the foot shifter and the shifter braces. Thank you for being patient with me throughout this process, for leaving comments and feedback too. Those are always so appreciated. First up, bring up your gizmo again and select Polycube from the gear menu. Go ahead and hit Unify and delete loops. Then scale it down into Z-axis. Now we're going to go ahead and do a bit of repetitive work, a good deal of extruding and repositioning with the gizmo. Instead of going step by step, let's talk about a feature in ZBrush that's a game changer for both organic and hard surface modeling. That feature is Sculptris Pro. Sculptris Pro is an awesome feature in ZBrush that's super handy for both beginners and experienced 3D artists alike. Basically, it's a dynamic tessellation sculpting workflow that allows you to start with any shape or model and sculpt it into a highly detailed form. The beauty of Sculptris Pro is that it allows for more of a free-form sculpting experience by adding or reducing polygons on the fly as you sculpt. This means you no longer need to worry about the initial base mesh or geometry when starting your sculpting process. You can start sculpting any shape, and ZBrush will dynamically adjust the number and distribution of polygons in the area you're working on. This is perfect for hard surface modeling where you might need extra detail in certain areas for sharp edges or mechanical detailing. Let's say you're building a sci-fi spaceship. Initially, you might start off with some basic shapes using primitives or the Zmodeler brush to block out the general form of your spaceship. Now here comes the real magic of Sculptris Pro, when you need to add more complex details like hull ridges, panel lines, or small mechanical components. Sculptris Pro jumps right in to save the day. With Sculptris Pro, as you start sculpting these details, ZBrush will automatically add more polygons to those specific areas, providing you with the necessary resolution for the intricate detail work. As you carve those lines in with a brush like Dam Standard or the Orb Cracks brush, Sculptris Pro dynamically increases the polygon count along the stroke, allowing you to create those crisp, clean lines with ease. And if you ever make a mistake, don't worry. With Sculptris Pro, you can just smooth over the area to reduce the polygon count, effectively erasing your error, and then you can start over again. Also, Sculptris Pro works great with a wide range of brushes. This means you can use all your favorite brushes with Sculptris Pro to carve, smooth, pull, or push your geometry, and ZBrush will dynamically handle the polygon count for you. Alright, transitioning back to our tutorial, let's snap to the side view and scale it in the Z-axis. Next, let's mask off the top half and rotate it about 40 degrees. Scale it a bit in the Y-axis, then select Mask Edge Loop Complete. Now we can invert the mask. Unmask the edge loop below and move it into place. Go ahead and keep on tweaking the shape with the gizmo. Now we can insert multiple edge loops to get it all squared up. Split the point on the top and the bottom. And then QMesh polygroup all. Press QC50, then finish setting up the creases. Now we can set the crease level to 3. Let's go ahead and unmask the edge and move it over with the gizmo. Next, bring up the gizmo, and from the gear, select the polycube. Hit Unify and delete loops. Next, go to the lightbox and head to the Array tab. From there, we can choose Array Mesh 08. Scale it up in the Y-axis. From the Zmodeler brush, select Transpose a single poly. Then polygroup a single poly so they'll bridge together. Give it a little bit more thickness and then rotate it. Adjust the Y amount in the offset to about -16. Then we can go ahead and press the Make Mesh button. Hit QC40 and set the crease level to 3. In order to save us some time, I've already whipped up the cylinder in another tool and given the top a little taper. Let's go ahead and insert the spiral mesh into the tool. Make sure the spiral mesh is beneath the cylinder and set it to subtractive. Now we can turn on live Boolean. Select the subtractive mesh and pull up the gizmo. From the gear, select Deformer Soft to tweak the taper. When you're happy with the shape, hit Accept to lock it in. Then we can click Accept and delete the lower subdivisions for both subtools. We could merge it down and use the gizmo to boolean the mesh, but just in case we need to adjust something later, let's boolean through the folder. From the gear of the folder, select Boolean folder. This will give us a new Boolean subtool outside of the folder. Now we can set the poly count to 1,000,000 for the Dynamesh utility. Let's use the picker to set the resolution and run a polish. Alright, let's drag out that cylinder from the folder. Q-mesh the poly loop. Unmask the top and extrude with the gizmo. Then we can scale it down a bit. Q-mesh the poly loop at the bottom and delete the middle island. Then we can hit Accept and delete the lower subdivisions. Merge the subtool down. Then set the poly count to 1,000,000 for the Dynamesh utility. Give it a quick polish. And use the picker to set the resolution. Then smooth the mesh. bring out the gizmo again. From the gear, pick Cylinder 3D. Hit Unify. Unmask the top polys and extrude them with the gizmo. Then press Ctrl and move with the gizmo to duplicate. Now we can rotate the cylinder 90 degrees. Next we want to scale it and move it into place. Now we can use the Clip Curve brush to modify the shape. Delete the bottom half of the cylinder and bridge those edges. Now we can alt tag the bottom two faces for a Q mesh. Unmask the bottom polys and scale them in the Z axis. Once you've done that, delete the middle edge loop. Let's go ahead and alt tag those 8 faces and Q mesh them back. Unmask the bottom island and move it forward. Let's go ahead and mask the bottom polys as well. Now let's unmask the top polys and extrude them with the gizmo. Mask the back edges and move the unmasked edges forward. Unmask the top polys and scale them on the Z axis. Now we can insert an edge loop right down the middle of both islands. Alt tag those 4 polys and Q mesh them upwards. Then we can press QC50. Hit Ctrl W to group visible. Mask the bottom polys and bevel that edge loop. Also, let's add a few more edge loops to quad it up. Then we can alt tag the polys to Q mesh them inward. Let's go ahead and uncrease those edges. Then add in a control loop. Now crease the edge loops. Once that's done, set the crease level up to 3. Finally, let's use the Clip Curve brush to clean up the edges. Okay, here's a quick rundown of what we modeled in the past 2 videos. Some bits you might have missed are the fasteners for the foot peg and the link to the shifter. They're just basically cylinders and extruded scale cubes, nothing fancy or worth showcasing at this point. For the next video, we'll be starting on the rear brake.